The following program is being brought to you on the Seventh Wave Network. For more information about our network and to check our additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit seventhwavenetwork.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Welcome. It's time for expansion. It's time for vibrational attunement and channeled messages with the mothers. This is Conscious Conversations with Angela Blaha. In our program today, you will learn about new states of consciousness and seek unity within yourself. Now, here is your host, Angela Blaha.
Welcome, everyone, to Conscious Conversations. I'm Angela Blaha. My beautiful guest today is Solara Sophia. Welcome to the show today, Solara.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, I'm really excited you're here. So today we are consciously going to be talking about several different topics, but they're all related. But let's start with the power of the present moment. So we hear healers and speakers, lots of people talking about the power of being present. What is the purpose of being present?
When we are anchored into the present now moment, we're actually anchored in the truth of our essence. And there's a lot of stuff that happens in this space when we are, here, I'm going to move inside because there's noise in the background. When we're anchored into the present moment and 0 point, we are able to heal our past and create our future simultaneously. We become aligned with divine will, and everything starts to flow with much more ease and grace in our life. We become instant manifestors and co-creators because we're living in alignment with the now. So this is our true essence. Our true essence is pure being. So when we're in these higher states of consciousness, we don't really have time anymore. So polarity completely dissolves, and all that there is right now. And what we see in the world right now is a lot of us are caught up in thought forms, so past and future, and we're missing the essence of our life, which is always right now. And so our state of consciousness in the present moment is what heals our past and creates our future at the same time, because the past is open and fluid, just like the future is open and fluid. And I think that we don't consciously recognize that. Sometimes we think that the past is fixed, like it already happened. We can't do anything about it, but we can by just being fully present and anchored in the now moment. And that aligns us with our higher nature, which is joy, love, bliss, and all of these things. And it's the space where we can truly transmute some of the heavier energies that have been holding us down for a long time. So any of these 3D dense energies will always get triggered in the present moment, and the way to heal those things isn't necessarily, and this can be helpful for us to go do past life work if that's what we feel called to. It all serves, but it's not necessary to go dig around and look for the root and the core of things. But it's really powerful to, when those things arise in the present moment, to allow ourselves to feel them without trying to necessarily identify what the root cause is or anything like that, because when we just feel the inner energy of the body. So say a trigger, something like anger comes up. If we allow ourselves to be rooted in the now, conscious in the present moment, and we take the time to really feel, where do I feel this anger in my body? Where is it coming up? That itself is what transmutes the energy out of the body so that trigger doesn't have to keep coming up. So, everything happens in the present moment. It's just, are we conscious enough to be anchored there?
Right. And I think it's really kind of important as well, as time slowly disappears for us, moving into fifth dimension and beyond. There is no time and space, right? Or it's always available, but we don't have to be ruled by time and space.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
and so when we're like living in the present moment, then that means that there is no real past and there is no real future, that everything's simultaneous. So when you think about healing your past, well, you have to bring it into this present moment time, right?
Yeah.
And the future is the same way. Like, we think about the future being out there someplace in front of us, but I don't feel like it's in front of me ever. I feel like it's like I can change my future, I can change my past just by being present with what presents itself.
Absolutely. Yes, our state of consciousness in the now moment is what affects both of those things. So it changes what our past had to be to get us to this moment, and it also it's creating the energy of the future. But ultimately, these are both illusory, right?
Right.
They're completely illusory concepts because they're not really real. I mean, we're shifting billions of times per second into a new now moment, into a new reality. And that's so empowering because that gives us the power to change, to change ourselves, to change our lives, to change what we're creating. And this is where I love to tap into quantum with people, because things start to become instant. When we really grasp the truth of this and we allow ourselves to be fully present and anchored in the now moment, healing can become instant. Creation can become instant. I mean, we're not completely at like where our collective consciousness isn't evolved to a point where it's like you have a thought and then it instantly manifests right in front of you.
Right.
We're headed in that direction, but it can become so much faster. So when you set the intention in the present moment, it's created. It's just a matter of, okay, now when is it going to show up in my physical reality? And there's no questioning whether or not that intention is going to manifest.
Right. I was having a conversation yesterday with someone, and the thought of, that part of our lives are predestined, that we're kind of these robots, functioning in life. And I was like, no, wait. That is furthest thing from my truth. Right? Like, I don't even know where that whole concept comes from, that everything is already predestined, but we're the creators.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about co-creating, and what does that really mean?
Co-creation. Well, everything is energy. So essentially where we place our focus, the energy of that thing that we're focused on gets activated. And so co-creation happens through our thoughts, through our words, through our actions, through our overall energy and state of being. And what we choose in the present moment is what then either draws in, attracts, or creates the experiences that we're having in our life. And so I always, when I look into my outer reality, I see it as a perfect mirror. And so, and this can be challenging for some people because we don't always see things that are very pretty in our outside reality. But it's such a great learning tool because it shows us the reflection of us, of how we're showing up, aspects of our own consciousness. And they kind of just show up. They show up to accommodate us and show us, okay, this is something that you have inside of you. It's either ready to come out or you're ready to create something new. So we can use that as a tool to shift our own energy and our own way of being so that we can actually call in what it is that we want to have in our life. But this is where it's really essential to raise our consciousness and to shift our state of being so that we are actually creating what we want in alignment with the truth of our essence, which is love and joy and bliss. But we have to make those internal changes in order for our outer reality to reflect that back to us. And so I think sometimes in manifestation and you create your own reality paradigm, it can be deceptive in some ways because we get this list of exercises or this process that we need to do to create our reality. But the truth is we really need to shift our own energy and who we are being, how we are showing up in the world. And this is how this is raising our consciousness. In order to become conscious co-creators, we have to raise our consciousness. So it's really important to look at, what's showing up in our reality, because we are creating all of it.
Right. So we're basically co-creating with ourselves.
Yes. Oh, all the time. Well, it's interesting because if you look at like dream work, 99.9% of what you see in a dream, in the dreamscape, is an aspect of your own consciousness, and it's the same in our waking life,
Right.
Every single person or situation that shows up is, in fact, an aspect of our own consciousness. And if we're really willing to look at that and be honest with ourselves about, maybe where we're holding on to judgments, or maybe how we might have shown up that way in the past, or where we're having emotional responses to things, that we can just become more conscious within ourselves about those things and start to shift them,
Right.
then we'll get the mirror of our true essence when we are actually, being in alignment with that. And I mean, with most of my clients, I see that show up in the mental body. So you might, think that we're showing up and we're acting, loving and caring and kind, but inside, we've got these thought loops that are running that aren't necessarily aligned with, the face that we're putting forward in the world. And so it's really important to look at, okay, like where do my thoughts go? Where do I go when I'm thinking about certain situations or people? And really, the work that I'm doing now, because ascension is happening so fast and everything is speeding up, is instead of analyzing that and trying to create a new belief system, is just transcending the belief systems altogether and allowing ourselves to empty our mind and allowing ourselves to return to still point. And that's when something higher can actually come and create through us. But yeah, I feel like for us to really make the progress that we want to make as a collective right now, mindset work is really helpful and really powerful. And I know that in the beginning stages of my journey, it was really powerful in helping me to make internal shifts, because, I had no self-worth, no self-esteem at all, and I had to build that all up by shifting my mindset. But then you eventually come to a place where it's like you can actually drop the belief system altogether. And instead of focusing on rewiring our mind and our mindset, we can actually just transcend. So like when those triggers come up or when those thought loops come up that are negative, we just stop feeding them. We can literally just choose to drop it altogether and return to a space of peace. But it just requires a higher level of consciousness to catch ourselves when those thought loops start running and go, okay, this doesn't feel good. I don't want to be stuck in this thought loop. I'm just going to choose to transcend it. And a way that we can do that is to just place our attention on the inner energy field of the body. So instead of thinking, we start feeling more. And this actually starts to awaken extrasensory abilities, because we become more attuned to the subtle energies that are happening within and around us. So it's really powerful when we move beyond thought. And that's actually what will create the dissolution of polarity in time.
Right. And moving beyond thought is, part of moving into fifth dimensional energy, right? It's part of the shift that we're actually working through right now, which is, even for myself, I've been so sick this last week, and I really had to dig in deep into thought process and, what's my belief around this and what can I release versus, and it was a experiential experience, not one that I can experience too often because I don't really like going there. But I think that's where people are at right now, right? And they're like they really need this information in order to move into that feeling body. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and we're going to come right back with Solara.
The Voice America 7th Wave Channel. Be extraordinary. Be the change.
In Angela's book, Show Me How to Remember Your Power Through Self-Love and Forgiveness. You'll find an empowering book filled with messages of love and forgiveness. She gives powerful ways to use your own courage, strength, and love to heal your emotional and mental body. You can find the book at Amazon or visit Angela's website at angelablaha.com. The book is available in paperback and Kindle formats. Step back into your power. Get Angela's Show Me's at angelablaha.com. Sometimes in the busyness of daily living, we can forget who we truly are as spiritual beings, with intent and purpose fueling our goals and dreams. Remembering begins with navigating belief structures, family or cultural expectations, and history, so we can find our way. Listen in to Timeshare with host Marie Jackson. Marie and her regular contributors discuss life's questions, challenges, obstacles, and rewards, all bringing us to the spirit of who we are. Timeshare with Marie Jackson can be heard live every Thursday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on 7th Wave.
The Voice America 7th Wave Channel.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations. To connect with Angela Blaha or her guest today, please call into the program at 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. You may also send an email to angelablaha005@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations.
Welcome back, everyone, and I have Solara with me on the show today. And we were discussing moving from mindset, what our thoughts are, into the emotional body, and really bringing ourselves present into the present moment time, because that's where we can change, right? That's where we can change things, and we don't have to work through these really long processes like we did in the past. So transmuting energy is fairly simple, right, Solara?
Yes. Yes. So transmuting energy, this is actually a really important thing for us to be doing right now. And as we've seen over the past few months, the cosmic energy is kind of supporting us in this process, although it doesn't always feel like it, because it can feel harsh sometimes. So what's been happening is at an accelerated rate, all of these unconscious aspects of ourselves have been kind of shaken up and uprooted, so that they can come into the light of consciousness and be transmuted. So the way that I transmute energy, and this is, a powerful way that we can all transmute energy, is when an emotional response or a trigger comes up in the present moment, instead of making it into a projection, so that's when we make it about another person or a situation, we really slow down, drop in, and get centered and feel what's happening within our body, what our emotional response is. So this is the essence of responsibility, taking responsibility for our responses to things, because whatever arises within us is ours to transmute, and that's why the universe is bringing it to our attention. So when something like that comes up, what we can do, instead of thinking about it or trying to figure it out or projecting it out onto someone else, we can literally be with that emotion or that feeling in our body and go, okay, where am I feeling this? Is it in my head? Is it in my chest? Do I feel it in my solar plexus? Where do I actually feel it? And as we allow ourselves to feel the feeling of it, it transmutes, because the light of our consciousness, our conscious presence, is what does the transmuting. So we really don't have to do anything except watch it. Watch the emotion, feel where it's coming up in our body. And depending on the intensity of it, sometimes we can even feel heat start to rising off of our body. We feel it start to rise, because that's the transmutation that's taking place. And sometimes during activations and things that I do with people, you feel the heat, you can feel cold sensations, you can start to feel sleepy all of a sudden. because your body is trying to transform that energy. But it's a really beautiful thing when we do this because energy cannot be created or destroyed. So when we just project something out, we're just kind of spewing it into the ether, right? So that energy can now find another person or another thing to attach itself to so that it can get fed. So it's really beautiful when we can allow ourselves to be with whatever arises and to just allow ourselves to feel it so that it fully transmutes, and we're really taking care of that energy. We're actually transforming it from lower to higher, and that supports the entire collective when we do that.
Right, because, you know, you and I sort of teach some of the same principles. So instead of giving it to somebody else, it's your responsibility, my responsibility, to make sure that it's transformed into a higher vibrational energy so that it can be utilized.
Yeah, absolutely. So it transforms into fuel for enlightened consciousness.
Right.
And this is what we're stepping into. I mean, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about 5D. It's a space of enlightenment. And, you know, it's not something that's just reserved for a few people. This is our natural state of being.
Right.
You know, like everybody's.
Right. This is universal consciousness. This isn't just guru consciousness. Right?
Yeah, this is for everybody. And this is part of the journey and truly experiencing that and holding that space. And I mean, this is what alchemy, you know, this is the essence of alchemy, turning base metals into gold, transforming lower into higher. And this is also part of our species maturing and really taking responsibility for whatever arises in us. And it's not, we don't have to like attach a judgment to it either. It's just a thing, you know, coming up. And I think that's where we, you know, like, we don't need to feel bad about ourselves or anybody else. It's just what's arising. And so we deal with it as it comes up, and so that we can move through it and into these higher levels of consciousness, because everybody, we're all very unique individual expressions of source, but in essence, we are all the same. We are that vibration of infinite and unconditional love, and our deepest desire at our core is to experience that. So what we're really wanting to experience is the energy of our own essence. And we've all had glimpses into that space, right? And usually it's spontaneous. And, you know, like we'll be out in nature and we just have this profound moment of peace or bliss or enlightenment. And, you know, a lot of people have experienced these Satori awakenings, too, where it's just a moment of you're in the lowest of low places that you could possibly be in your life. And you surrender because you don't know what else to do. You don't feel like you have any other options. And in that moment of surrender, you catapult up into this higher state of consciousness, and you experience enlightenment for the first time. And then we spend, you know, most of our time trying to get back to that place. Like, how do I get back there? How did I do that? And it's really fascinating because we got there because we surrendered. And so if we can stay surrendered in this moment, and so what we're surrendering to is the present moment. We're allowing it to be as it is. And so if anger shows up, if sadness shows up, if, you know, whatever shows up, if we allow ourselves to be with it, and we just stay in a really relaxed space around it, and we just go, okay, like I'm feeling this right now. And so a way that we can deal with this in relationships, and this is how it's been showing up over the past few months. I mean, it always shows up in relationships, but it's been more intensified over the past little while. To really be able to transmute and transform that energy in relationship, it's really important to stay super conscious, and instead of projecting what we're feeling out onto the other person or the situation, we can look within and go, okay, like I'm feeling this right now, and we can easily say to the person, you know, when you did blank, I felt blank, and now I'm going to go be with myself so that I can deal with this energy, instead of engaging in a battle of, you know, a battle of the egos, because that never turns out for anyone, and nothing really gets transformed. It's just, And
you know, I think that an important part of the word surrender means that you're just like literally moving into yourself. You're not giving yourself up or giving something up of yourself to someone else. You're moving back into who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, because who we are is naturally, we're at peace. We're in, like you're just talking about, like those satori moments or those moments of profound peace. We're just getting a glimpse into the truth of who we are, and when we surrender, that's what we're surrendering into. It's like, okay, like I'm not going to worry about, what happened yesterday or 10 years ago or what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm going to allow myself to be at peace with what's happening right now. Right. And the more we practice surrendering to the present moment, the more it becomes natural, and then we're living from that space.
I teach emotions, like understanding the emotions and how they have a duality side. And, we need to be looking at all angles, right, of the emotions. How do you, Solara, get people to understand that it's their responsibility to know their emotions or to understand them or to move into them? Because it's kind of a scary thing.
Yeah. Well, my first question is always, have you had enough suffering? Have you suffered enough? Because the point when we are really willing to go within and look at those things is when we have come to a space we are truly done with pain and suffering. And it can be challenging to look at those aspects of ourselves. Especially when we're seeing it in another person. This is the true essence of shadow. It's whatever we're judging or having a charged emotional response to in another person is an aspect of ourselves that we have not been willing to look at or become conscious of yet. And that can be challenging to do, but this is just part of evolving. This is a part of becoming more conscious and going, okay, I'm feeling this thing. This is something that is within myself. And if I truly want to experience peace, if I truly want to experience joy on a regular basis, and I'm not talking about the joy that has an opposite, because within, every high contains the seed of the really low low. So I'm talking more about this centered space where we really are living from true joy and true peace, where the pendulum stops swinging from side to side. There has to be a willingness, a true willingness to want to go to that space. And then it's not about the other person anymore. It's not about the situation. It's about, do I want to truly experience peace? And that becomes the question. If you're ready for that, then let's dive in and let's do this together, and let's look at some of these emotional responses or judgments or projections that are coming up and see how we can start to integrate those. But there has to be a willingness, because if there's not a willingness, then that person's just not ready yet, and they still need to experience some more of the creations that may bring, a certain level of pain or suffering or anxiety before they're really ready to make that shift.
Right. And that's okay, because, we can't all be ready at the same time. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I know in my journey, I had to go through, I was so stubborn. It took me, I had to go through years of, and at the time I wasn't aware of what was happening, and I didn't have anybody around me to help guide me, to, kind of show me what was happening. But even if I did, I don't even know if I would have been ready to take full responsibility for my experience yet. What do you mean I'm creating abuse? What do you mean I'm creating, that's a tough thing to look at. Really tough. Right. And, but then you get to a point where you're like, okay, well, something's got to give, because this keeps showing up in different forms, right? And I'm the common denominator in all of these situations. So it can't just be.
Right. It can't just be all of them.
Right.
I have to have some sort of play in this.
Yeah. And them is really an aspect of me. And this is coming out of separation into unity consciousness, too, and really recognizing the truth. Really, and not even just knowing it conceptually, but really feeling that even though we appear to be separate from one another physically, the physical, I'm a person, you're a person, our essences are all intimately connected and tied together. And how I interacting with you is a reflection of how I interact with myself.
Right, exactly. We're going to take another short break, and we're going to come right back.
Be visionary. This is the Voice America 7th Wave Channel.
In Angela's book, Show Me How to Remember Your Power Through Self-Love and Forgiveness, you'll find an empowering book filled with messages of love and forgiveness. She gives powerful ways to use your own courage, strength, and love to heal your emotional and mental body. You can find the book at Amazon or visit Angela's website at angelablaha.com. The book is available in paperback and Kindle formats. Step back into your power. Get Angela's Show Me's at angelablaha.com. We are all searching for a deeper meaning in life. The possibility exists to create our life from the perspective of our true divine nature, where the experience of joy, love, abundance, freedom, and peace is our birthright. On the Inner Frontier, host Darlene Green presents a new topic every week with a high-frequency conversation to support a gentle revealing of the divine that is unique to you. Tune in every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time and 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America 7th Wave Channel for the Inner Frontier.
This is the 7th Wave Channel on the Voice America Network.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations. To connect with Angela Blaha or her guest today, please call into the program at 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. You may also send an email to angelablaha005@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Angela Blaha, and I have Solara with me today. Solara, let's move into consciousness.
Yeah.
So, what is 0 point consciousness?
0 point, it's the still point. So it's the womb of creation. So this is where nothing and everything exists simultaneously. This is complete stillness. All possibilities exist in this space, and all creation is birthed from this space. So this is where things are quantum. And when we allow ourselves to enter into the still point, this is when we become really powerful manifestors. So we can set an intention for something and then move into the still point, and we allow something higher to create, to move, and to create through us. So, yeah.
Yeah, that gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. Oh, it's just such a powerful space to be in. And I mean, this is beyond, so presence. I mean, presence is, this is part of that still point. This is our essence. So, like, when we're in these higher dimensions, the 13th dimension where the Godhead is, there's no ability to think about what was before or after. You're just so rooted in ever-present now moment. And this is what still point is. It's the ever-present now moment where the vibration of divine unconditional love is. And, this goes beyond the human, the first time I felt this or experienced this, because I had a death experience while I was still alive, I was just blown away. I was just blown away. And when I came back, I was just crying because there was so much gratitude for the vibration of love that I felt. I mean, I had never, it was remembrance, really. I was remembering who I was and where I came from, but I hadn't felt that yet in this physical experience. But what I really felt was myself, and this is all contained in the still point. And so, and this is what we're surrendering into also. We're surrendering into the still point, and this is just a deep level of trust of letting go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that when I get into that point, like, of that unity consciousness, nothing else exists.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's, you're it. And you're there.
Yeah.
Like you've arrived. But
Yeah.
but it's really hard to put into words. I find that
Yeah.
super hard. Right? Because it's not anything that we've ever experienced here on Earth before.
Right.
But the overwhelming sense of peace and unconditional godlike love is so extreme that all I do is cry generally.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is like the ecstasy of being. It's the euphoria, the nirvana, the bliss, and we're so complete and whole that we don't even want anything else. It's so interesting because that's what we're all really looking for. So like when we want to manifest something specific, it's because we think it's going to bring us the feeling of our essence.
Right.
And that's what we're looking for. So if we're able to tap into the feeling of our essence, we don't care. And I mean, it's like, we've had those days before where it's like you feel so good, like you're in that space. Mm-hmm. You don't care what anybody else is saying or doing. You don't care what happens or what doesn't happen. You just feel so aligned and so good. And that's what we're all looking for. And that's what, that quantum still point is where that all exists as everything and nothing simultaneously. It's such a powerful, beautiful space to be in.
Right. How do you tell your clients to get there? How do you
I do energy activations with people. So I do the quantum energy activations because I have found that if I can align them with the frequency of that thing, they already know it. So I'm not teaching them anything new. I'm just helping them to remember who they are. And if they can tap into the feeling of that, their soul knows how to guide them back to that space over and over and over again. So it's become more about like aligning them with the frequency of it so that they can have the direct felt experience of it for themselves. Because sometimes I actually did have a client who had an awakening while we were on a call together, which was like we were both crying. Did this just happen? Like it was really beautiful. So like a teaching or words can trigger that spontaneous awakening in someone. But I usually, if I'm guiding someone there in a practical way, I'm guiding them through surrender, a complete letting go. So looking at anywhere where we're trying to be in control. This is hard. Well, this can be challenging for people because I need to be in control. But we're surrendering control to something much higher and more vast than we are as a singularity. So this isn't really taking the power away from us. This is actually allowing ourselves to step into our true power.
Right.
When we do that. Yeah, so usually I guide them there through surrendering into presence.
And what was I going to say? It was once you get that and you like sort of practice going back to that, 0 point where you're just so in love with yourself and everything around you, like it becomes your new addiction, right?
Oh my gosh.
And you bring it into everyday life. That's where you become pure love, you become pure bliss, pure joy, right? You bring that consciousness into your everyday being.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's when our presence itself becomes transformative for the people who work with us.
Right.
So they're receiving these transmissions simply by being in the field of that energy, of that consciousness. And when people do drugs, this is what they're looking for. They're looking for that high, that euphoria, and we don't need substances. And actually, we can't get all the way to that place with the substance.
Right.
If we continue to use the substance, there has to be an awareness that we can go to that place because it is our natural state without the substance. When we drop the substance, we allow ourselves to move more deeply into that space.
And quicker.
Yeah, much, much quicker. It's just such a temporary, artificial
High
in comparison to the ecstasy that we can feel when we tap into our body. And this transformation actually comes through the body. So it's really becoming deeply present within your own physical vessel and feeling the inner energy field of the body over and over and over again. So we can, this is the essence of true meditation, is when we allow there to be a gap in thought. And this can happen while we're anywhere doing anything, but it's creating a gap in thought so that presence can come through. That's what presence is. There is no thinking involved.
Right.
So the more we can create a gap in thought, and extend that gap out, the more we're embodying presence. And the way that's most effective for me to do that is to just really tune into and feel the inner energy field of my body. So I start from my head and I move all the way down to my toes. And I'm like, okay, what am I feeling in my head and my neck and my shoulders and my chest? And I just allow myself to feel the inner energy field of the body. And I just do that over and over and over again. And as I do that, I start to feel that feeling of ecstasy coming through, because there is no thought, which means there's no judgment. And, judgment can be good or bad, or pleasant or unpleasant, or however you want to look at that. I mean, but it's just transcending that altogether and moving completely beyond that to feel the ecstasy of being, to feel the peace and the serenity of simply being. And when we're in that space, and we can, so this is where we become really powerful manifestors. When we can anchor into that space in this moment, and the next moment, and the next moment, and that becomes our singular focus, is being present and without thought, things start to manifest automatically in our reality. We don't have to ask for things anymore, because we're so aligned with the energy of our own essence that it knows what to manifest for us. It knows what we want. It knows what we need. And that higher energy is coming and out manifesting through us now.
Right. And, I teach meditation as well. And getting people to understand the gap is probably one of the, but that's the point, right? Like they want to try to understand it. There's no really understanding it. It's just being. Right.
Well, it's connecting. So what we're doing is we're actually creating inner space. So we can connect in with that space by connecting in with the space that's all around us. Or Eckhart Tolle has this as a recommendation, and I love it. It has helped me. Now I move more into the feeling sensations, but at first it was super helpful for me to just go, I wonder what my next thought is going to be. And that instantly puts you in the position of the observer, of the witness, because now you're looking for a thought, and nothing comes up for a few seconds at least. And you're like, oh, that's what a gap is. There was no thought for a second there. So you just want to... Okay.
That makes logical sense, right? And the mind sort of wraps itself around that, saying, oh, is that the gap? Is that really the gap?
That spaciousness. And this is, creating inner... So this is when we're talking about holding space. This is really what we mean, is we've created enough presence and enough inner space to allow something higher to come and work through us, which is much more... consciously intelligent. This is like true knowledge, true wisdom, true inspiration starts to come through that spaciousness that we've created, and to out manifest and create through us, and to give us all the ideas. But we need to create that inner space first and be that container for that big, huge manifestation to come through us. Creating and holding space is such a gift. People who are really, who are doing that, seems like such a simple thing, and it really is simple, but it's powerful.
It is very powerful, and it can be draining for on the physical body for some who don't use source in order to hold space. Right, they use their own energy rather than using source energy to hold space. That can be a very draining thing for some people. So we're going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to come right back with Solara.
the Voice America 7th Wave Channel. Seek greater awareness.
In Angela's book, Show Me How to Remember Your Power Through Self-Love and Forgiveness, you'll find an empowering book filled with messages of love and forgiveness. She gives powerful ways to use your own courage, strength, and love to heal your emotional and mental body. You can find the book at Amazon or visit Angela's website at angelablaha.com. The book is available in paperback and Kindle formats. Step back into your power. Get Angela's Show Me's at angelablaha.com. Sit back, relax, breathe. Reconnect to the still small voice within. Take the time to make a weekly visit to the Sounds of the Heart with host Sandy Goldstone. This unique program will help you cultivate and strengthen your heart's connection and feel love, beauty, and joy. You don't need to fear or suffer. Heed the call. Say yes to living from the heart's truth. Tune in live every Tuesday at 5 p.m. U.S. Pacific Time on the Voice America 7th Wave Channel. Join the evolving consciousness of humanity.
This is the Voice America 7th Wave Channel.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations. To connect with Angela Blaha or her guest today, please call into the program at 1-866-472-5795. That's 1-866-472-5795. You may also send an email to angelablaha005@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations.
Welcome back, everyone. Solara, we were talking about, consciousness and field of consciousness and getting into the gap. And we know that once we get into the gap, like our intuition increases, right? Our connection with unity consciousness becomes magnetized. Our instant knowings, our abilities to see and hear and use all of our intuition becomes strong. It gets very, very strong. So what are some new metaphysical tools that you've been exploring with?
So I've been working with sacred geometry a lot. Mm-hmm. So Metatron's cube and the star tetrahedron. And so something that the universe guided me to do, because in the past, when we're spinning things into like light, if we're spinning light into our energy field, it's been clockwise for a while, spinning the energy in clockwise, through the crown of the head. But I was shown that what that does is that actually anchors us into gravity, time, and duality, and that to actually open up our field and unlock gravity, you need to start spinning the energy counterclockwise. So what I'll do is I'll put I'll put Metatron's cube at my feet, and there's the 12 pillars of light, right? And then standing in the center, then I start to spin that cube counterclockwise so that it can just really spin out and unlock all of that dense programming that's, inside, and I direct it to, return to source so that it can be transmuted. And as we spin our energy counterclockwise too, that also increases our frequency so we can command our own energy to spin counterclockwise. So that's been really fun. I've been working with a ton of sacred geometry, especially being in Arizona now. There's so many portals, and I've just been guided to activate that energy. And the cool thing about working with these metaphysical tools is we can we can command the energy to move, and it moves. It's so much fun. And you can get into this with transmuting energy in your field, transmuting energy in your environment, and it becomes kind of like a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so fun.
Yeah, I've been using upside down tornadoes to clean out emotional energy, and man, those things work magic. Yeah. They really do work magic. So what kind of sacred geometry. How do you use that? How do you use sacred geometry?
So sacred geometry to me is like the blueprint of life. It's the blueprint of reality. So this reality is actually a dreamscape. And I've actually been able to see this with my physical eyes, where I saw that this is all a projection of light, which was a really fascinating and interesting experience. But everything was made up of this sacred geometry. And so if I want to, like, if I go somewhere and I feel like there's dense energy or just lower levels of consciousness in that area, I'll set down a grid. And so what that looks like is I spin that sacred geometry. Sometimes it's the flower of life. Sometimes it's the seed of life. You'll see the seed of life a lot in nature. But I'll just set those grids down. And so I just intend it. So I just intend that there's a grid here, and I see it with, so the light that I see, it's like a crystalline, it's like silver gold. So it's it's just really crystalline, beautiful, reflective energy. And that's what I see the grids as. And I'll set them down and I'll start spinning them counterclockwise to kind of unlock some of that dense energy. And that can be dense emotions, anything that's just like lower frequency, and spin it back up to source. So I can do that like for areas that I'm in too. So I just set the intention, if I feel that, just to help lift the consciousness of whatever that area is. I might be in nature. I might actually be at like a store, or you know what I mean, or in a neighborhood or something like that. I feel like I'm just being guided to set a grid down, and so I'll do that in that area to help lift the consciousness of that area and the people in it.
And so what do you notice when you, like, how does the energy change? How does it?
Oh, I can feel like that fifth dimensional energy, like almost instantly. And usually nature responds. So like the wind picks up, the sun shines brighter. Like nature responds when I do it, and I can feel these fifth dimensional energies around me. So, these can be, whatever you look at these fifth dimensional energies as, like archangels, God, goddess, whatever archetype, you connect with, and the elements respond to it too. So like, earth, air, water, wind, fire, like it all starts to respond to these higher frequencies. So I can literally feel the density lifting and the higher dimensional consciousness coming into those spaces.
Yeah, I use like almost hurricane kind of energies, and I create portals wherever I go where there's, heavier kinds of energies. Yeah. And instantaneously almost you can feel, and Mother Nature, like, I use tools that the Gaia gives us. And so the instant response from her as well is like, that's probably the reason that I do most of it, is because, it's uplifting. And the people around you, the people in those spaces just shift. Yeah. That's why we do this work.
Guy is like, thank you. That's
I needed help there.
Actually, so one of the things that's been coming through for me over the past little while, because this shift is happening now. Like, it's not, all this stuff that's coming up within us over the past little while, like, it can no longer be ignored. And it can't be like shoved back under the rug. Like, Guy is like, I need you to deal with this.
Right.
And I need you to deal with it now. Thank you. Right. And so we're seeing all these natural disasters happening, and I started to have like prophetic visions of things that were going to start taking place on the earth. And the message that came through, because a lot of this comes through my dreamscapes, and it was, if we start to shift the consciousness, and we can use these tools to start shifting the consciousness where we are within ourselves and within our environment, and we also connect with Source. So for me, that looks like prayer. So really connecting in, and for someone else, it might just be consciousness or standing in my I am presence.
Right.
A lot of these things can actually be rewritten or avoided or shifted or changed if we start to tap into these higher dimensional frequencies and higher levels of consciousness, but we do need to make that shift so that those calamities and things don't happen. Because what's happening is it's like whatever, so like we'll take an earthquake, for example, and I tuned into this and I asked Source, like, what would create an earthquake in an area where there's a lot of people, where it would bring destruction at that level? And the instant response I got was a concentrated amount of victim consciousness, which makes sense, right? Victim consciousness would create a situation where there's a victim.
Right.
So we can shift that, though, if we choose to become more conscious and take responsibility, like we were talking about before, our emotional state, our energy, our level of consciousness, and we can start then moving outward and using these energetic tools to shift the consciousness of our environment. But the primary thing right now is because nobody can heal us. I mean, you can go to a healer and they can help you and they can assist you, but it's up to us to really do that, you know, to become more conscious within ourselves and then stay conscious moving forward. So it's not like we go and have a clearing and then we're all set. It's like we can have that shift, but then it's our responsibility moving forward to maintain that new level of consciousness.
Right. Right. So it is our responsibility. Solara, we are out of time for today. I'm so upset because I love talking about this with you.
Yes, I know we could go on forever, but thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun.
Thank you for being on the show, and, you know, keep shining your light bright and healing as we go, and teaching others to do the same and to stand in their power of who they are. So I want to thank everyone for listening in today. And until next time, I love each and every one of you. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you for tuning into this week's edition of Conscious Conversations. Be sure to join Angela Blaha for another edition next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America 7th Wave channel. Until our next meeting, have an extraordinary week.